Hi, I'm Amanda Leatherman. I'm the owner of INVICTAS Pro. Welcome to Modern Day Athlete. If you've been here before, welcome back. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this podcast, we're going to be introduced to subject matter experts, professional athletes, and various health professionals from around the world that are going to provide resources, answer those questions and concerns that you may have. So whatever's on your mind, drop in the comments below and let us know. We're going to jump right in to today's guest. All right, so today we are joined with Jamil Whalen of Trigger Point Studios. Jamil, welcome in.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you specialize in instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization.
Yep.
Deep tissue release, fascia, like manual therapy and release and mobilization as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then tell me a little bit else about what you do for athletes.
So especially with athletes, I think a lot of their time, especially at practice, is not too much, but it's very focused on like the training. And sometimes even the diet, depending on the sport, especially for like combat sports like wrestling or something.
Sure.
But there's not too much focus on the recovery aspect. They'll send them to the trainer at school. They'll maybe get a bag of ice or tossed in an ice bath and then sent on their way. There's no like real like manual therapy, which is like the deep tissue stuff that we do at Trigger Point. The myofascial release, breaking up that fascia, improving that mobility, so therefore improving the stride if it's a running sport, range of motion just in general. And then also pain relief too, because a lot of that restriction does cause pain, causes overcompensation, therefore their body's now asymmetrical, their movements aren't natural, and then that later turns into pain.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
we basically fix them up.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Hence the name Buttermaker.
Yes.
But we'll get to that later.
Yes, exactly.
And so, I mean, in your own words, tell me what you're doing to help athletes.
Basically, just helping improve that mobility, kind of giving them the edge on their own performance, whether it's like a kind of a solo sport like track or swimming, the sport that I did growing up.
Okay.
Kind of being the edge, the extra help, especially with how sport specific youth athletes are getting. I'm actually seeing a lot more youth athletes. They're getting more sport specific. Where growing up, in our time we did every sport, which means a lot more time practicing, and not enough time recovering. And so I'm kind of their recovery coach, you could say. So instead of giving them like drills and stuff to do, I'm giving them like, okay, like foam rolling, that's going to be your homework. We're doing this specific stretch here. Take this stretch strap. I want you to stretch, twice a day, etc. Or plantar fasciitis. We see that a lot. I'm telling them to take the roller, like lacrosse ball, some people have, rolling across those muscles, kind of doing what we do in a session, like at home on themselves, even though it's not enough to, take away from what we do, but it's enough to keep them going at practice. And so essentially I'm kind of like their recovery coach.
I love that, by the way. That's a well put title. And I think that you bring up a good point in saying that not enough for them to do on their own, where it's taking away from what it is that you're providing, the service that you're providing for the athlete to help them excel and perform, but definitely help them in between in that intermittent time frame, the dwell time between coming back to see you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, on that note, what do you feel is an appropriate frequency for an athlete? And then how does that differ from just an active individual?
For an athlete, probably once a week, I think is good, especially because, they're doing a lot. I don't want to say damage to their body in a bad way, but their body is taking in a lot of trauma, especially if they're in competition season. So not only are we trying to, maintain the recovery, like in between each competition, for example, but you also want to help them, give them that edge. And frequency, definitely once a week. That'll help them, make that maintenance, and go beyond the maintenance,
Okay.
go at the optimal level. I think that's like the word optimal. We kind of see it, or we don't see it as it should. So optimal is beyond just what you're capable of doing mediocrely. Like you're kind of like in PT. So you go to PT, it's covered by health insurance, but you only get a certain amount
Right.
of visits, and they're like, oh, okay, you could walk again. You do have kind of a limp, but you're able to walk. All right, so off you go.
They
But that's not
release you.
optimal.
Right.
That's functional, I guess you could say. So we're trying to get them at the optimal range where they're at their peak performance.
I like that.
Yeah, and the difference between that and an active individual, I don't want to say there's a difference in frequency, because I think the same thing can be said. They can come in once a week and they'll be in that optimal range, because even the athletic individual who works a 9 to 5 desk job, for example, they might be doing HYROX, for example.
Yeah.
I have a client that I had just worked on. He does finance, 9 to 5. And then before and after that, he's doing HYROX training. So
I love that. I love the
yeah.
versatility in lifestyles right now. And I love that the exposure of HYROX coming into mainstream is now becoming a
It is.
huge avenue for a lot of athletes to transition over. And because it has such a low barrier of entry, it makes it
Yes,
ideal for kind of anybody to dabble into that.
that's true. That's true. A lot of, because, you see like the CrossFit competitions,
Right.
and I don't want to say every single one of them because I'm not super knowledgeable in that field, but I'd say the majority of them are either sponsored athletes or like, full-time CrossFit.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of high rock competitors, even though they are training full-time, it could also be training that's done after work. It's training done before work, training done on the weekends. And like you said, it is lower risk of injury. It's more functional. Not that CrossFit isn't functional,
Right. I
but
understand what you're saying.
yeah.
The difference is that the HYROX functionality is not strength based.
Right.
Versus CrossFit is more strength based.
Right, exactly.
So it's functional in its own respect.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. But I mean, still very interesting to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so to kind of touch back on one comment that you
Yes.
made, particularly about icing and ice baths, what's your take on that from a professional standpoint?
I growing up as an athlete, I didn't do too many ice baths. I was a swimmer, so the water was typically cold.
That was your ice bath.
That was my ice bath, but it helps reduce inflammation, and that's especially good if you're doing an impact sport like football, rugby, things like that. It helps bring down that inflammation, bring down the swelling. And so I definitely am pro ice bath. It also can help activate the vagus nerve, kind of wake you up, and also get the rest and relax stage within the body. So just there's a bunch of different benefits. I wish I knew a little bit more about it, but it's definitely beneficial. I'd say, though, if you are going to do it, don't do it immediately before a workout or immediately after.
Okay.
If you're trying to build muscle,
Right.
because it is going to slow down the blood flow to the muscle. So it's going to then restrict the muscle growth.
Okay.
So if you're trying to grow muscle or put on size, it's definitely something that you're doing later on in the day. Probably immediately after football practice isn't the way to go, but maybe a few hours after or a few hours before as well, because if you do it immediately before working out, now those muscles are constricted and you have to warm them back up.
Right.
And it kind of negates the whole purpose of it.
No, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that's solid advice as well. And so, in terms of timing some of
Right.
this recovery, what do you feel is maybe the optimal recovery timeline, or kind of like introducing your body to it in terms of what you've done training throughout the day?
So I've definitely gotten worked on myself and immediately went to go work out.
Okay.
I think it definitely depends on the level of training you're about to do and the level of like competition you're about to. So if you're going to compete, definitely 3 to 5 days in between, like rest. So like get worked on, then 3 to 5 days, then compete. you don't want to do it immediately before, because at the end of the day, it is introducing some trauma to the muscle, and that could hinder you. Like if you're going to do it like the night before, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people experience DOMS and they don't
Yes.
necessarily get it 24. They might get it up to 48 hours.
Delayed reaction. Yeah.
So you're saying give yourself some time to recover, essentially.
Yes.
Recover from your recovery?
Yes. Yeah, because it is a good hurt. Even though it's good, it's still a little bit of a hurt. So timing it is key for sure. If you're like just a regular gym goer, though, it's optimal to go get worked on after. So like work out, then come see us. It'll actually reduce a little bit of that DOMS.
Okay.
But that's like casual, like weightlifting, some cardio, and then going home. No like competition level training. That's a little bit different.
Right. So in comp season, in performance mode, you want to make sure that you're timing this out
Yes.
accordingly. And
100%.
that's kind of something that you, as a professional and a practitioner, you touch on with each of your clients that comes in. You have a good gauge on where they're at in their training cycles so that you can advise them.
100%. A lot of like my marathon runners, for example, I try to keep them at like Monday or Tuesday. That way they have enough time, because typically marathons are Saturday, Sunday. So it gives them enough time to fully recover. That way they're like ready to go once the marathon comes around. Same with HYROX. The client I was mentioning, he comes in Tuesdays. So before the HYROX event, that was the most recent one here in was it Houston?
In Houston.
In Houston. He came in that Tuesday, and then something else that we do besides the manual therapy is the IV hydration with Vitamedics. So he came in that Friday and got hydrated that way. Got some supplements as well in there. So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's one of those key components that I think is starting to kind of be exposed to mainstream fitness in general. I don't want to call it a fad or a trend, but I do see a shift in marketing going towards health-related recovery in terms of as a component to your fitness training. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that?
It's like hot and cold. Love-hate relationship, especially when I was like first starting in the industry, like straight out of college. I just wanted a job that related to what I went to school for, which was kinesiology.
Right.
So like I love it because there was an avenue. There was like, oh, I can, there's options for me to work. But on the other end of that spectrum, it's, along with the trend, I guess you could say, there is a level of like, like a job goes corporate. Right. Someone goes Hollywood. When a lot of money's involved, it can kind of skew the goals. And instead of focusing on fixing the people, it becomes more about getting people in, keeping them in, locked in, a contract in.
Monetizing it.
Yes. Like when the focus is solely monetization, it kind of ruins it.
Sure.
So there has to be a balance.
Yes.
You want to fix people, but you don't want to prolong. And when I say fix, I mean you want to help heal them. You want to help them recover, but you don't want to prolong that any longer than they need.
Sure.
My goal is always for like, and if you're like a 24/7 competitor, you're competing all year round, like the weekly frequency, that's like probably going to be your entirety there until you stop competing. But for the average like gym goer, or like someone who's coming in because they're having sciatic pains and it's inflicting or it's intervening in their life.
Right, like day-to-day living.
Day-to-day living, exactly. Like it's unbearable. Like they can't walk, they can't do anything. They can't sit down for prolonged periods of times, but they have a desk job, they have to. The goal is to get them in as frequently as possible to fix their issue. After that, tailor them down to the maintenance phase.
Okay.
Yeah, because, at the end of the day, we want to help people. We're not trying to bleed them dry.
Right.
But my earlier experiences with that shift in the market, kind of the, like you said, the trending aspect of recovery was that it was numbers, percentage. Mm-hmm. I remember my last job, if you didn't have a retention of 80% or higher, you were getting written up or talking to or fired.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. But I feel like it takes away from like the whole point, which is like recovery, giving the people what they need.
Right. So ultimately, the goal is to, like you said initially, optimize their performance
Right.
abilities, or just optimize their quality of life.
Exactly.
And once you get to that point, or if you're doing your job
Hmm.
efficiently
Exactly.
and successfully, they shouldn't be in there long term.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And so, kind of talking more about like fixing people and instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization, what is your go to tools that you prefer?
Honestly, my elbows. My elbow, or I say my elbows, but the forearm, like the flats
Sure.
of your forearms. Nothing beats it. Nothing that and my body weight.
There you go.
But there are times where that's not enough, or sometimes the adhesions are deeper. So cupping is really good. Kind of helps you work a little bit smarter instead of harder.
There you go.
I do like muscle scraping. I think it's really good, especially for the upper body. I focus like the thoracic region.
Mm.
That's honestly a big go-to. Um, and then this is out of my scope of practice, but even dry needling. So our chiropractor and our phlebotomist, they both do dry needling. And sometimes, because there's so many layers of muscles, so sometimes it takes going that deep. You gotta dry needle, which sounds a lot scarier, but you don't even feel the needle. So
You know, I've actually I am one of those advocates of dry needling,
hmm
just because I've dealt with some long-term issues, and especially at this point, it's probably more like tendonitis kind of thing. It's just
right.
deep set, and sometimes that dry needling is what you need to
Oh yeah,
release some of the just alleviate some of the tension and
exactly. Yeah.
discomfort that you're experiencing.
Mhm.
It can be a game changer.
It can. Sorry, I totally realized you asked what my favorite one was.
You're good.
The favorite one that I do, probably cupping.
Okay.
Favorite in general, and this is biased on like my experience getting it done. Dry needling for sure.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
That's
I
fair
think.
enough.
And sometimes there are things where like if it's out of my scope of practice, that's why I like that we do a multitude of things. So we have a chiropractor who can do adjustments. I legally cannot adjust people. Like that's not my scope of practice. That's
Right.
where I hand them off to Dr. Tower, and he can do both the dry needling, the adjustments. Also, if someone's coming in, they're super depleted, so I can work their muscle till they're black and blue. But if they got something else going on, they're lacking a certain mineral or vitamin or something, hormonal even. That's where Ryan comes in the picture, and he can take care of that. He also does dry needling as well. So sometimes him and I have even worked on clients together. I'm doing the soft tissue. He's dry needling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so you're referencing the team over at Trigger Point Studio.
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about, so I know that you have Tower Cairo in there who's
Mm-hmm.
handling, like you've mentioned,
Yep.
and you have Ryan with Vitamedics. But then you also have a pretty phenomenal team of professionals where all of you have different respective abilities and
Yep.
strengths and areas of expertise that you kind of throw into the pot together. So you really
Oh yeah.
are the one-stop shop for all athletes, hands down the best go-to
Oh yeah.
in town, because in terms of finding everything you need in one spot. Tell me a little bit more about what other services that you guys do there.
Absolutely. So obviously, no pun intended, but the bread and butter is the mobility.
Sure.
Um, Everybody there except for Dr. Tower can do it. He sticks to the chiropractics. But Jesse, the owner, um, he's been doing that for years before opening up Trigger Point. Then there's Heather, who's a IFBB pro. She's very knowledgeable in like the muscles as a whole. She also does have some NASM certs as well, and just kind of tailors like all her knowledge gained from her own experience in bodybuilding as well as the NASM and applies it. She's very like she understands the mechanics really well of the muscle. There's William, who's our traditional massage therapist. So we do have traditional massage therapy like Swedish, Thai, which I think is I think is underappreciated, but I think there needs to be an overhaul on it because you do have those like the trending like massage heights. Oh shit, I did it again.
It's okay.
You have
But
the
nonetheless, you have other mainstream
yeah.
commercial facilities.
Yes. And I feel like sometimes they're kind of, get you in and out, where he does his CEs. He's always like learning about the body. He's always, he applies both the mobility set, like stuff we do in the mobility session, like deep tissue and all that. He applies it in his massage sessions, and vice versa. Obviously, there's a little bit more of a relaxation when it comes to massage. So I think I think people need to utilize it more, but I think with the right massage therapist. So William, he's really good at that.
So in terms of massage
Mm-hmm.
and then the soft tissue mobilization like you guys do, or
Right.
you in particular, because you're working in tandem,
Mm-hmm.
which do you feel is should come first? What's the precursor? Do you feel like you should do the mobilization and then do the massage, or do you need the massage to release so that you can mobilize?
I think depending on the time, and also it's personal preference too. Some people cannot handle the mobility sessions. They can be like it's the good hurt, but it still hurts. Some people prefer a lighter touch,
Got it.
which William can provide. It's still doing the job. Like it's deep enough that it can do the job. You can basically go as deep as you need.
Right.
So whether it's just more light, more focus on the therapy aspect, or if he needs to really get in there, and he can even throw in cupping as well. Hot stones, the hot stones and the moisture with the hot stones really help loosen up the muscle.
Okay.
Which I never knew what the hot stones even were until he explained that to me. So it also depends on the timing too. So for like the competitors,
Okay.
runners, HYROX people, kind of how I was saying, the mobility session is good spaced out. That's kind of where a massage comes into play. You can get a massage, get something more light, more therapeutic, and like the lymphatic draining as well. Helps kind of keep you like the muscles relaxed, but not in a way of like pinning and stretching or breaking up the fascia, but kind of more therapeutic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll even recommend them to like Friday before competition, go see William.
Okay.
Get a massage.
So you're saying the relaxation part, lymphatic drainage that you touch on is great because it can help you feel rejuvenated
Exactly.
afterwards, particularly just flushing the system itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a good point. I hadn't even considered, that for my own personal performance abilities,
Right.
particularly when it comes to any kind of what I would say manual therapies.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, I tend to shy away from it as it gets closer to competition. But the
Right.
fact of getting a massage is actually probably more beneficial
Oh
in
yeah.
terms of just keeping everything loose.
Exactly.
Especially after you've had one of those like fascia or deep tissue sessions prior, like earlier in the week.
Exactly. And it mentally too helps keep you relaxed mentally, especially the closer you get to the competition time. You're starting to mentally tense up, and then that manifests into physical tension. So it kind of helps keep everything like loose and kind of keeps you from tensing up and preventing the physical manifestation of that muscle tension too.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point as well.
Oh yeah.
Especially because race day jitters get in and
Yes.
you do have some anxiety and you have adrenaline that starts to take over. And I feel like that's where a lot of performance athletes falter, is some of that mindset and mental aspect. So anything that you can help do to help keep that in line,
Oh yeah.
kind of in check. Yeah.
And that's why we're the one-stop shop.
That's right. That's right.
Oh
So
yeah.
you guys you have compression therapy now.
We do, yes.
You have red light.
Mm-hmm.
You have oxygen.
Yep.
And then you do have the the cold plunge.
Yes, we haven't implemented that yet.
Okay.
As you've seen, both online and in person, we just finished like I guess you can say phase 2 of kind of not rebuilding necessarily, but
Renovating.
renovating our studio. So we have that non-invasive room, all the services you just mentioned. We do it all in that room. Kind of keep it relaxing. It's still like its own room, but it's open enough that you can still be included in like everything that's going on within the mobility room.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
it's not like tucked away in the corner, but it's if let's say you're getting some compression or O2 done and trying to take a nap, you can close the sliding door and you totally get that privacy. But if, like, you're a mom or a parent and you're getting some compression while kiddo's getting worked on or vice versa, you can still keep the door open, be a part of the conversation, kind of just be a part of everything. So it doesn't feel like we're just shooing you away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's incredibly inviting and welcoming. And like I said, you essentially could come to your facility and spend quite a bit of time there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a hangout space, which
really is
amazing that you have such a welcoming area. And the team over there is amazing. Jesse, Heather, William, everybody, Ryan. So the fact that you can kind of come and, BS with everybody, but still have lunch and get work done and then hang out a little bit.
We even have
longer.
a kitchen.
You do have a kitchen.
Oh, and as of very recently, we're partnered with another company called Eat This.
Okay.
Kind of I don't want to say food prep, but it's kind of like ready to go meals, made fresh that day. We're actually selling them at the studio now, so you can eat while you're there, or bring your own food. We have like a whole kitchen, so we've even had some clients come from like Whole Foods or HEB and just like put their groceries in our fridge while they get work done.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Right when you're in the area.
Exactly.
So, I mean, to kind of bring it back a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
And talk about some. I'd like to hear your professional opinion on a couple of things.
Okay.
First and foremost, KT tape.
Okay.
So tell me, is this a placebo effect? Is it effective? What's your opinion?
So I personally don't use KT tape, not for the lack of like trusting it, but I just I have never been requested to tape somebody. I've never felt the need to tape somebody. But as someone who, so I had a slipped rib a couple weeks ago, changing the cat litter.
Oh, gosh.
How cool. And so I got seen by Dr. Tower, and he did a little bit of surface E-stem, kind of, which is a little similar to dry needling when they connect the E-stem to that, but it's more surface level. Still kind of does the same thing. And then gave me an adjustment, of course. And then he KT taped me. And I, at first, kind of like everyone, like, oh, this is a placebo. Like, there's no way it works. But no, it actually does work. It helped help keep my posture upright. So I wasn't rolling my shoulder too much, because what was happening was my right shoulder was rolling a little bit too far forward. This shoulder was rolling backwards, and it kind of evened me out a little bit. Kind of pulled everything where it should be.
So I guess essentially, I'm more of a skeptic in my approach to a lot of things until there's evidence to prove me otherwise. But you're saying more or less made a little bit of a believer out of you?
It did. I won't say it's the end all be all. Like, it's not like duct tape, just slap it on it and it fixes it. But I think it has its uses, for sure, has its uses. Especially if you're going to compete. I'm not competing for anything, but if you are about to compete and let's say you're having issues with the quad or issues with the back, for example. So like for the muscles surrounding that rib, it also helps kind of keep it there versus like, moving around or twitching. So it kind of helps keep things where they belong. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's like the end all be all. But I'm a believer.
Okay.
I'm a cautious believer, but a believer.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah,
That's what we
there
call
we go.
it. Yeah. All right. So, which leads me to my next seeking your professional opinion.
Okay.
Flossing. Like flossing the muscles.
Gotcha. Kind of similar. I don't do it often. But at a previous job, I had a client who requested it, and it made a difference for her, especially with her foot. She had issues with her foot, like it was going numb, or it would tingle, or like she wouldn't feel it at all. And like also some clients too with the elbow. They were having like elbow numbness and elbow tingling. but I don't, it's not like I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you seem so educated
Mhm.
and so knowledgeable in this field. What what led you to this area of interest in this field in particular?
That's a good question. Because it was it's changed quite a bit.
Okay.
As you know, like getting to know me, I went to school for something completely different. Um, so I originally I was going for graphic design,
Okay.
nothing to do with the body. I knew nothing about fitness at that point. As I, my metabolism was slowing down and gained a little bit of weight, started taking fitness more
Post
serious.
swimming career.
Post swimming career, yes, I still had the swimming eating habits,
Oh,
just not the routine.
gotcha.
uh, so I took fitness more serious, and then it became less of like, oh, I'm trying to get my health together, to, oh, I'm enjoying this, and I enjoy how I feel, and I want to help others feel how I feel. Um, but I think at the time, like when, for example, like with personal training, at that time there was a kind of how you were talking about how things become like there's a trend
A
of
shift
like a
in
shift in
trends.
trend. Yeah. It was kind of like that with personal training for a bit, at least
Hmm.
when I was thinking about that. And I was like, well, I don't want to, not like the need to be unique, but I was like, I feel like everyone's doing that. It can be oversaturated. And before that, I was having issues with finding work because of oversaturation in that industry.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't want to deal with that again.
Yeah.
And just finding different avenues of how to how to approach health and wellness, and making that into a way of A, making a living, and B, still helping others. Um, and I started coaching swimming and fell in love with it. Unfortunately, does not pay does not pay the way. So
Can make a career out of it.
definitely can't make some teams you can, but it's sleepless nights, and I do enjoy my sleep. And I was still going to school, so I kind of switched gears and focused more on kinesiology, and saw how vast the world of kinesiology is, how many different avenues you could take. So coaching being one of them. I really love swimming, and yeah, just coaching just wasn't gonna make the cut. And then I kind of shifted gears towards sports psychology, and realized, oh, this is an avenue like I never explored when I was an athlete or a coach. I wish I had known this information as a coach and as an athlete. I wish I had these resources. And then, as you know, I was reaching the end of school, kind of figuring out what I can do with my degree, and then entered the world of like manual therapy. So like the assisted stretching kind of stuff, the soft tissue stuff, all that. Kind of basically putting what I learned into practice in a
Sure.
physical aspect. And it kind of ties in with my need of like, or not need, but my desire of like coaching. It's to help people, to give people what I did not have. I felt like even as a swim coach, I tried to be the coach that I wanted,
Oh, okay. I understand.
and had these, had trigger point existed when I was an athlete. I wish it did. I would have used it. Those avenues just didn't exist. Those options didn't exist. It was, you went to the trainer, you got iced, you got taped, and they sent you to class.
Yeah.
And I try to be what didn't exist for me, but like for others. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You identified the problem
Yes.
and you presented the solution.
Exactly.
So you are the solution.
Yes. Well, I try to be at least.
No, I think you guys are. Every time we go in over there and have a sit down and have some work done, I, on a personal note, have noticed the difference between my training prior to seeing you and then post a session, for example.
Right.
And not only that, but I value the educational aspect that I walk away from. So whether it's, you're explaining something to me or maybe giving me a little bit of some different movements to perform outside of trigger point, then I take that back with me and take it to heart. So I implement that to indeed and help
Right.
so that I can progress as an athlete. And I mean, hands down, I know that all of you guys are doing that for all your clients, which, you know, it does lead back into that educational aspect that you sought out to help educate and inform and help essentially.
And it's funny that you say that. Another thing that I hated as an athlete was because coach said so, because I said so, because that's what we're doing today. There was never a explanation to why. It was always taken as like just trying to waste time or talk back, when it was like, I'm just curious. And what I really loved when I was a swim coach was that our head coach, he was also a professor at Sam Houston, where I went. And he always had an explanation for anything that we did, any sort of drill or technique that we were doing. He always had a sometimes too overly scientific explanation, where then the child didn't understand, but he still had the explanation, and that led to curiosity, and you still learn something instead of being told, oh, just because that's how it's always been done, or because that's how we're doing it. And I try to take that, even with what I do at Trigger Point, explaining why I'm pushing on this muscle, or why there's a knot here, and why you're having overcompensation. And even though your pain is in the right shoulder, when I'm working on the left one, you're noticing that it hurts a lot more. And it's, because, you're using it more, and you're overcompensating for the side that hurts. And kind of just giving that explanation, and it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Just keep it not like too simple, but just enough that they understand. It's like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's just the need of like wanting to know why.
I mean,
And
I
wanting to be told
understand
why.
that. Yeah, I understand exactly where you're going with that.
Yeah.
And I am one of those challengers of why. Tell
Yeah.
me why. So it sounds like you are too. Not
Yes.
too rebellious.
Yeah, not in a rebellious way, but just in I want to know.
Well, you touch on a couple of really good points in terms of naming a few common injuries that you see. But tell me, in terms of active individuals, so not our athletes, because they're going to incur different injuries,
They sure do.
or and not even injuries, but definitely different areas that are problematic.
Yep.
So for your active individuals, what are some of those problem spots that you're seeing?
Ooh, a good one is sometimes even just the overactivation of muscles and causing them to not be able to loosen up. I'll tell a client to relax, and they're like, okay, and then nothing's changed.
Oh,
It's like, oh, they're struggling to relax that
there's
muscle.
a
There's
disconnect.
mind muscle connection that they're lacking.
Mm.
So honestly, mind muscle connection I'd say is one, even though it's not technically an injury. Definitely shoulders, rotator cuffs. It's always a rotator cuff.
And why do you think that is?
Two reasons. Manual labor, especially like the older folks, not like super old, but like, 55 plus, 60 plus.
The blue collar
Blue
style of.
collar workers. Oof, always shoulders. It's
Okay.
always a shoulder or pec. And it's just the maybe not knowing how to correctly, like not getting that knowledge of how to correctly lift in the gym can translate into not knowing how to correctly lift in at their jobs,
Day to day.
at their day to day. Yeah. And that's what we see a lot of, especially with I'm glad you said blue collar, especially with the blue collar workers. So definitely shoulders, labrum tears, rotator cuff injuries. Just everything with the thoracic and the scapular area for sure.
And when you bring up scapular and thoracic area, so definitely T-spine
Yep.
is more of the common reference that people make with that. Do you find that it's because we've trended towards more of a sedentary lifestyle? So there's a lot more of the curvature and the rounding of the shoulders. So then some of those front-sided injuries are occurring because we have weakening in the back?
100%. And it's funny you say that. I'd never even noticed this trend until I started working in this industry. A lot of like the 9-to-5 desk workers, like they like just over time, your shoulders slouch forward, you kind of regress in your posture. And then when I'm working on them, the first thing I go for is figure out if their pectorals are tight or injured or something. And it usually is. And they're like, oh, why is my chest so tight? Like, I don't even do anything crazy. Like, I sit at a desk all day, I work. And I'm like, that's why you sit at a desk. So there's no stretch movement going on. You know, your chest is just constantly like just at like a contracted state. It's never relaxed. It's never moving. There's no movement there. So yeah, that's why you see like pec tears or even just like strains or just pain, just limitations. And then so they think, oh, it's my shoulder, it's my delt. No, it's your pectorals pulling on those muscles and causing that pain.
And so to mitigate that, what would you recommend in your professional opinion so that they perform or that they do throughout the day to help alleviate some of that?
And I know it's hard, but honestly, just getting movement, one of them. Another one, it sounds simple, but just setting a reminder in your phone, whether it's like every 30 minutes, every hour, every 10 minutes,
I love
to
that.
like correct your posture. Because, you know, maybe the first couple hours you're like able to think about it, but, you know, after like an hour and a half meeting, after like email after email after email, you kind of forget.
And we're
And
always picking up our phone.
you're always picking exactly. So you see it ring, you see, oh, it says fix my, you know, kind of like similar with the Apple Watches when it tells you to breathe or when it tells you to
Right.
get up and move.
Use your resources.
Use your resources, and just even something as simple as that. Another one, I mean, there's always a wall somewhere. Literally, you can stretch your pec along a wall. Personal favorite of mine is using a lacrosse ball or a roller ball.
Those are the little ball of death.
They are, but they're so cheap.
They are.
And they're in bundles.
They are. So what do you recommend? I know
Just
that,
rolling across the pec.
yep, just
Simple as
hand
that.
manipulated, or do you like to smash it
use
in to the wall?
to the wall. If you can handle it, the floor.
Okay.
People. So for example, Ryan, he's like, "Oh yeah, use the floor. It's a lot better." But you know, to that person that doesn't do that, on average, they can't handle that kind of pressure. So leaning against the wall, you can control how much body weight you're putting into it. But yeah, just rolling it out and flushing some of that adhesions and getting some of that movement back in there, like pinning and stretching almost, really helps. I mean, I use it every day because I have very developed pectorals. So
From swimming.
from swimming. Also, I love bench. I love bench press.
Well, I suppose not only that too, but because you are a manual therapist
Yep.
and practitioner, you're constantly
Constant
engaging and contracting the musculature of your upper body. So
Always.
and then, so that's relevant to active individuals. Now, when we speak in terms of our performance athletes
Right.
and the clients that you see in that realm, the competitive side of it, what are some of the common issues that you guys are encountering with those?
Strains. Lots of strains. Like medical grade. Like they've gone to the doctor and they're like, that's a muscle strain.
Okay.
We're seeing and also some tears too. Some like minor tears. We had a client recently who he's a competitive. He does competitive mixed martial arts. Had a labrum tear, and luckily it's nothing extremely dramatic. He just needs some PT
In the shoulder, the hip,
in the shoulder.
in the shoulder.
Yeah. So I guess he was going for a takedown at practice and just impact hit him at the wrong place at the wrong time and said I forgot what he said he felt, but came in and got worked on, and nothing that he got worked like nothing that they did while working on him was like making it worse. But they did say he had a minor labrum tear, so now he has to do a little bit of physical therapy. He's easing up on the manual therapy that we do for a couple weeks, but once he gets cleared for that, which should be pretty quick, I'm sure he'll be back.
And so, in terms of the strains and some of those soft tissue injuries that you guys are seeing, what do you do for those athletes? How do you resolve those issues that they're encountering?
So physical therapy is one. Some you can work on, be, especially like for example like hamstring. You can work on that. You just kind of approach it differently. You don't go you don't go like super deep or anything. You use kind of more your resources that you have, like scraping, cupping. Maybe not cupping. That might be a little bit too intense. But there are ways around it. You just don't go super deep.
And what's the ultimate goal to the manual therapy and those injuries?
To help the muscle basically relax, get it loosened up, get it activating correctly. But yeah, you don't want to go too hard because that can further strain the muscle.
Sure.
So like probably no pinning and stretching. So because especially when you're doing the hamstring, a lot of it is pinning and stretching. So it'd probably be more of like with the thumbs kind of massaging the muscle and kind of working it out. Not so much the heavy duty like elbow to the or fist to the hamstring. But yeah, and a lot of it is because the lack of the recovery, like outside of the training, the lack of stretching. Sometimes in like, for example, that individual, it could just be like wrong place, wrong time, like just poorly timed move or just move doesn't go according to plan.
Sure.
Especially in combat sports, things always don't go according to plan.
That's probably a pretty accurate statement.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that comes to mind for me that as a trainer, I know that I see pretty regularly, and I know absolutely that you're dealing with is a poor mobility and a lack of flexibility
Yeah.
for a lot of people. So, tell me a little bit from your perspective and in your words why enhancing those areas are important.
So mobility extremely important. Flexibility is, I think they kind of go hand in hand. They're not the same thing, but I think they go hand in hand. Flexibility, I think, goes beyond a functional stage because there are a lot of athletic people that have poor flexibility.
Sure.
Still improves optimal stages, but I think mobility is, or sorry, I think I said that backwards. Mobility is more like functional, whereas flexibility is more like optimal. But both are required in order to get to that optimal stage. I think flexibility in general, I think, is good for injury prevention.
I agree.
Yeah, because if you're performing like a movement of some sort, like for example, like HYROX, you're doing like wall balls, you're doing burpees, you're doing sled pushes, ski erg, rows. If you're not mobile, you're not going to do that movement correctly. That causes overcompensation, which then leads to injuries. Flexibility, if that kind of goes hand in hand with range of motion. So if you're lacking range of motion and you do a movement that your muscle does not have the elasticity for, that's how you get tears. So I think they all kind of tie in and they're equal, but they all play a different part. Like they mean different things, but they contribute to the same thing. I'm sorry. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely did.
Okay.
And I agree with you. I couldn't have said it better. I think that you hit the nail right on the head and you explained it in very simple terms that are understandable. You do need that mobility because it will help with overcompensations in other areas,
Exactly.
which you want to avoid.
Yeah.
That's an avoidable area in training. And the flexibility is crucial to ensuring that everything is moving with its full range so that obviously enhances your efficiency throughout your movement.
Exactly.
Because you're avoiding those compensations. And how are you guys helping? So if I come in as a client and you realize that I have one of these issues or both, how are you helping to optimize that while I'm on the table?
So especially with sides that are maybe overcompensating, those muscles are overactive. So in that specific scenario, I'm trying to help that muscle loosen up. I'm trying to help get it to activate correctly, fire correctly when it needs to, relax when it needs to. And then on terms of the muscle that is not activating enough or not firing enough, whether that's due to injury or lack of range of motion, we're going to try to lengthen that muscle, try to improve the mobility in the joint. Therefore, it actually functions the way it should, making the body more, or sorry, not the body, making the movements more symmetrical. Therefore, you mitigate the overcompensation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of making those corrections, I know we kind of talked about frequency being like once a week you feel like is pretty adequate for most athletes.
Oh, yeah.
But when we're coming and we're speaking on a longer term scale of flexibility and mobility,
Right.
what does that look like? That term of treatment, I guess.
I'd say it really depends on the client's their commitment to A, coming in, B, doing the work outside of the studio. So a lot of the times we get people, or I don't want to say a lot of the times, I'd say it's a healthy mix. We'll get people that they'll come in and they're like, oh, well, we tell them until we're black and the blue in the face, like make sure you're foam rolling, make sure you're rolling out the muscle, make sure you're doing this specific banded exercise or like stretching this specific muscle. And sometimes there's just no getting through to them unless you're outside the studio with them, holding their hand through it all. Kind of like a kid, when there's no eyes on them, like they're not going to do it. But when there's eyes on them, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot with youth athletes. They're like, oh, yeah, I stretch. And it's like,
Very obvious.
Yeah, very quickly obvious that they're not stretching outside. And I think a lot of that falls too on the coach sometimes of that sport. Sometimes the coach is like, oh, we're just going to do some leg swings and do like a quick little jog in place or touch the toes and then call it and then get straight into practice and then send them on their way home after. There's no proper cool down. There's no actual recovery routine. There's no day in. Let's say you're practicing 5 days a week. There's no day where they come in early to dedicate 30 minutes of just like mobility work, recovery. There's no, unless they're doing PT on their own, like their parents are paying for it, or they're coming to see us.
Sure.
There's no outside practice aside from just training for the sport. That's it. So I think a lot of the treatment time depends on A, how often they can come in, of course, but B, like what they're doing outside the studio. Which is why we're always, giving them something to do outside the studio. We don't overload them with too much. So I always give them like 1 or 2 things, make sure they like remember how to do it and what to do. Once I see that they're like, oh yeah, no, I've been doing this, like you told me, how you showed me. I'm like, cool, now we're going to add this to it. And then, so over time, not only am I helping them physically, but I'm giving them the blueprint to maintain that progress that we but if they're not doing it outside the studio,
Right.
they'll still get their results, but it's going to take a whole lot longer.
Well, absolutely. And it's detrimental to their overall performance, which is where
Exactly.
you're at. You guys are trying to optimize everybody's livelihood.
And we don't want to take any more time than we need, unless they want to come in.
Well, you guys have the space for it.
Right,
so.
we do.
And so what do you think are just some of like the key techniques that you would advise everybody to do outside the studio? So like if they're coming to see you, what are they doing outside of the studio based on your recommendations?
A, foam rolling or lacrosse ball. I recommend that to every client, especially to roll that muscle, flush it out. Helps decrease decrease DOMs. Helps increase that mobility, helps increase your range of motion when you're stretching. So even just getting that down, I always start with that. I'm like, foam roll. Roll your muscles with the lacrosse ball.
And there's a technique to it.
There is. Yes, there is. Which I always show them if they don't already know. I'll usually, even if they say they know, I'll just kind of demonstrate it anyways, because I'm like, oh, I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
And that happens.
Exactly. Not everyone can afford a personal trainer or like has the resources to reach out to one. So just showing them like how to do it correctly, how to do each stretch. correctly, and like also the different equipment, like a stretch strap, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are like, oh, well, I use the elastic bands, but sometimes if you're stretching your hamstring, for example, that could slip off and slingshot right into your face.
Well, that or
Um,
you use a little bit of that give to
or
kind of push away from that
exactly,
hold that would be more of a good position for you.
exactly. And then yeah, like even bending down to touch your toes, like yeah, that's okay. But if you're laying um, inverted, and you're pulling the muscle towards you with the strap, you can, instead of like bending and stopping kind of where you're limited because of like maybe lower back issues, you actually are able to just focus on stretching that one muscle. Like you're able to manipulate. So kind of just showing them also not just like how to do it, but like different ways to do it too, like different tools that they could use that are easily accessible.
Oh, there you go. So foam rolling, using a stretch strap. Any other recommendations that you have that you give
Uh,
frequently?
Ice and heat. So depending on the scenario, sometimes you don't want ice because they're having issues with inflammation and you want to keep it down. Sometimes you do want to introduce some healthy amount of inflammation to the muscle to kind of get that blood flowing. So, depending on the scenario, alternate heat and ice. Just kind of, and also really kind of taking away the mental stigma of like, oh, well, I don't need a stretch, or oh, like I'll be fine, I'm young, and then a lot, because I mean I was saying it too when I was 21, and next thing you know, back pain came a lot quicker than I thought.
I'm telling you, your birthday comes and then the next day you got that weird achy
Yep,
pain in your side.
exactly.
And yeah, you bring up a really good point. Don't delay. Don't put it
Yes,
off.
exactly. I think that's the number one regret that we hear from a lot of clients when they come in. They're like, oh, I wish I came in sooner. Like I wouldn't be in pain like I am every day. Or I wish I knew about this sooner. I wish I took it more seriously. I wish, the stigma of like, oh, you'll be fine. Don't be a baby or whatever.
I really don't like that. And we
Yeah,
hear that far too frequently in the
exactly.
fitness industry. Just that suck it up. Suck it
Suck
up,
it up, buttercup.
buttercup.
Yep.
Right. And I feel like the trend of shifting towards more of a health related recovery mindset.
Right.
I don't think that it's a new thing. It's been there.
It has. It
It's
has.
been it's existing, but it is absolutely beneficial, like you said,
Hmm.
to optimizing performance.
Exactly. And like you were saying too, like we're seeing a shift in adults like finding this pain like a lot quicker than they used to, because they used to say, "Oh, wait till you're 50. That's when you're gonna start having back pain." But I have friends that aren't even 30 yet, and they already have chronic back pain.
Why do you think that is?
Just growing up hearing that constantly, growing up hearing.
Succumbing to it?
So yeah, exactly. Just come like in their reality, that's what it is. Like you'll be fine until you're not. And now they're starting to realize like, oh, I don't have to be fine until I'm not. I can be fine, and that's that. And just be fine, and be even better.
Yeah. Do you think it's as we age, obviously, I think in a society we become less active.
Oh yeah,
But I think that also that's kind of a personal preference because you could choose to remain active
that's right.
or choose to live more of a non-active lifestyle. And on that basis,
Hmm.
do you find that you guys are seeing some of those middle-aged or senior, later in life individuals, and are they still active or are they completely sedentary? And so now you're having to kind of help break down some of the issues that they're encountering from those choices.
I think we get a healthy mix just because of where we're located. We're like right next to a heavily predominant bodybuilding gym.
Okay.
So we do see a lot of like bodybuilders, a lot of younger, or maybe like not kids, but like young adults that are approaching that avenue, or kind of where where we saw the shift in trend of like being active is kind of more the cool thing now. So I'd say it's a healthy mix, but when I first started in this industry, yes, definitely a lot of older adults trying to turn that tide and be like, I'm sick of having sciatica.
Do they have the ability to help reverse some of that, or is it lost?
So, I mean, I'd say it's not lost. It might take longer. Obviously, some waited till they've had to get knee replacements or or shoulder replacements. So I don't want to say they wait till it's too late, but they wait till it gets severe a lot of the times. And then kind of to circle back on why maybe we're seeing a lot of these pains coming in like at a younger age now. Um, I think because of this shift of how, going to the gym is popular now, you're seeing the rise of like, not in a bad way, but like influencers and like influential people like being physically fit, and it's kind of more the norm now in the younger crowd. But they're not shown how to recover properly. So you have 21-year-olds that are trying to attempt a 550-pound deadlift PR, for example, and
With poor technique.
with poor technique. So it's I think that could also contribute to why we're seeing that shift younger. But I think it's a healthy mix. Some people, they're trying to get ahead of the curve. I mean, the other day I had a firefighter who I forget what the training is called, but there's a certain training, like a ruck march training that they have to do to qualify and to continue to, I guess, keep being a firefighter. And I think he was saying he held the record at his fire station. And I mean, he's not like old, but I think he's above 50.
Okay.
Very fit guy though. But he's now having issues with his calf. He's having some overactivation issues. They are constantly cramping. He doesn't have the same mobility that he once had. But he wants to show the younger guys that he still has it. So I think for him, it's not like it's too late. He didn't have any major surgeries or anything, but he's trying to get ahead of the curve. So it can be a healthy mix. We also have some people that have had major surgeries.
Yeah, and you bring that up, so I really am interested in hearing how you can help alleviate the damage that's done when you have a major surgery.
Oh, yeah.
Because as a patient, when you go in, a lot of times the doctors are pretty forthcoming about you may not return to full range of motion. You may receive, 60% is good. That's ideal. As an athlete, that does not cut it.
No.
No athlete wants to go in and be told by your, ortho that you're going to maybe get to 60% range of motion and accept that. So what do you guys do to help with that?
So, and I'm glad you said it. Kind of actually circles a little bit back to what we were saying before. That is what they consider functional, not optimal.
Right.
And something that we help with too, like the deep tissue myofascial release, breaking up scar tissue. Scar tissue is a son of a gun.
Yes.
And that can, I'd say a lot of the times, contribute to a lot of that limited range of motion after surgery. Obviously, to the trauma to the area that they're working on. But a lot of the times, especially after a few years have passed, a lot of it is scar tissue that just needs to be broken down. And especially for major surgery, sometimes it takes a lot of breaking down. But again, doctors, they, recommend, they refer you to PT. PT gives you whatever your insurance covers. They say, oh, you're at 60% range of motion to where you used to be. Cool. Let's, you're done unless you pay out of pocket. But like you said, for athletes, that's not good enough. You want to be at that 100%. And so that's
as close to it as possible.
Or as close to it as possible, which is where we come in. So yeah, a lot of the times we're breaking up that scar tissue and kind of just improving that range of motion over time, slowly. Of course, you don't want to introduce it too fast. But yeah, that's where our TLC comes into play right there, is to make you optimal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so to kind of elaborate on that a little bit, and not to give away too much of the sauce.
Right.
But I know in the fitness industry, especially having worked with younger athletes all the way through, older aged senior athletes, a lot of times we see knees go out just because there's like meniscus or ACL or different injuries to the knee area. A lot of times the shoulders, the rotators get tore up pretty quickly, like you mentioned before, labrum. So, what are you guys doing to kind of help? Uh, with those specific areas, what I would say are a little more elaborate in their soft tissue areas.
So again, you kind of have to handle that differently. There are techniques that you just can't do
Okay.
because like that you would just be introducing more trauma, not actually helping the muscle heal. Um, but we have other avenues as well to help with that. Like we do have the chiropractics, we have the dry needling, we have the red light therapy that helps as well. We have cryotherapy, which does wonders. It basically is like an ice pack on steroids. So for those kind of injuries, I definitely recommend cryotherapy. That kind of helps speed up the recovery process, speed up the like taking away from the pain, and just helps the healing process of that muscle repair itself. So yeah, we just have so many options that even if the deep tissue stuff isn't the answer at that moment, we have other avenues to help with that as well. So sometimes, yeah, like you need to go the other route, which is why we have all those other options. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you definitely touched on when somebody needs that help, when
Mm-hmm.
they need that support, when they need the TLC.
Right.
They can come to you guys because you definitely have the answer to whatever it is they're experiencing to help them.
Oh
They're
yeah.
going to walk out with feeling a better quality of life than when they walked in the door, frustrated or maybe at some point
Yep.
given up hope. And you're kind of restoring that.
Oh yeah. We oh, more times than not we hear you guys are our last hope. So sometimes, yeah, we literally in every sense are their last hope.
Well, what I can hear from you is you're pouring your heart into the work that you're doing
Oh yeah.
for others. And I mean, that's commendable. I love that. I know that when I come in there, I always feel like it's the best hour of my day. I feel like I'm a
I love that.
priority.
Yeah, everyone that walks through that building is our priority for sure.
So, on that note,
Mm-hmm.
what's the best hour of your day?
It depends on the day.
Fair enough.
Mondays, surprisingly, and it makes sense in the grand scheme. Mondays are always my busiest day. It is. I don't want to say impossible to get on my books on Monday, but um, you have to be a little bit more strategical. Everyone wants to start the day off great,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, like I have to go to work."
So you're a
I have to
Monday
do-
man.
I am very, very busy on Monday. Surprisingly, not as much on Friday though.
Okay.
Everyone's out there having a good time.
Yeah.
Or getting ready to give me my
Racing.
money's worth, or yeah, getting ready to compete. So Monday, I would say, is always an easier day to get on my books. Uh, wait, did I say Monday or Friday?
Monday you said is busy.
Monday, yeah, Monday's busier. Friday's easier. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it fluctuates.
Yeah.
It fluctuates. I'd say morning is a good time, like early morning, as well as like maybe 2 or 3 o'clock. A lot of people like to come in evenings as well, evenings or lunchtime. So from 10 till about 1 o'clock on average, I at least have 2 or 3 people, and then I'll hit like a little lunch rush, and then I got maybe an hour or two to myself, and I can eat, work on myself, get worked on.
Oh, there you go.
And then 3, 4 o'clock, I'm back at it.
What's your go-to recovery tools and techniques?
On myself,
Mm-hmm.
like if I'm just like stretching myself or working on myself, um, foam rolling and a lacrosse ball for sure.
Okay.
I always have that lacrosse ball on me.
Now, I'll tell you, I have noticed there's a trend going right now
Oh yeah.
where we're catching you in those compression boots.
Yes, I have been using that a lot more lately. Yeah, I was using the hip. So the ones for the hips kind of gets the lower back a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm prone to lower back pain, soreness, whatever you want to call it. Many injuries from, I wish I could say from poor training or like sports related, but no, just stupid buffoonery, playing around, falling out of trees, skateboarding, all like backyard
Paddleboards.
wrestling. I haven't hurt myself paddleboarding yet.
There you go. That's good.
I hope to keep it that way.
Yes.
But so I like using the Normatec a lot. You'll catch me in there, probably watching TV with the red light and Normatec in. And then just foam roll. I'll stretch myself a lot. I don't want to say I'm always stretching. I have my bad moments where I'm not, but I try to make sure I stretch daily. And then honestly, every once in a while, I'll even throw myself on William's schedule and get a massage. Because, I mean, of course, there are outside things that I have going on. Nothing like crazy or anything, but trying to keep like, not necessarily keep at-home life or outside of work life, like away from work necessarily, but just to make sure to keep any outside stressors. I try, at least once a month, will throw myself on William's schedule. I'll throw myself on Dr. Tower's schedule, especially to keep my back in check.
There you go.
Especially with the slipped rib
Right.
situation that I had recently.
Yeah.
See, it's always doing stupid stuff, cleaning the cat litter. Like, come on.
Well, I mean, but you bring up a great point. Even as an active individual and a practitioner helping other people optimize their recovery,
Right.
you still need to prioritize yourself
Oh, yeah.
and make sure that you have something recurring
Right.
just to keep things moving well, right?
100%.
Staying on the front side of it and being proactive so
Yep.
then we're not.
Got to live by example.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think one of the final things too is, you've really found your way. Sugar Point, amazing team of people.
Yes.
We've kind of talked a little bit about that. I know that it took a little bit of time for you through your professional career to get to this point where you kind of found your team, your family, if you will. And so how is that situation working out for you now?
It's great. I guess I never talked about it publicly, how I even found Trigger Point. But I was trying to transition to something new. I felt like where I was at, I kind of hit my ceiling, and wanted to kind of expand on everything, like put what I already know into practice and then expand on that and learn more and find a place where I can learn more, and just continue to keep that drive going. And, you kind of venting to the folks, telling them like, oh, like I'm looking for something new, da-da-da-da-da. And my mom happened to, I don't know if he worked at the same company that my mom worked at or just, I guess, like companies, working together, whatever. She knew a guy who...
The best stories start like that.
Yeah.
My mom knew a guy.
Knew it, yeah. And she knew a guy. And funny enough, he was a client at my prior job. And, when you get to know your first-time clients, you're like, oh, like, how'd you find out about us? And he goes, oh, your mom. I thought he was trying to pull a fast one on me. I was like, okay, you got jokes? He's like, no, I'm serious. I used to work with your mom, like said her name and everything. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I thought you were just being funny. And my mom was still friends with him. So she's like, oh, he knows this guy who and of course it's Jesse. Like, he knows this guy named Jesse. He owns a place kind of similar to what you do, but they do like a bunch of cool things. And, you should definitely talk to him. Here's his number. So I texted him and we were like talking. I was like, oh yeah, like my mom gave me your number. And we
how the best friendships.
Yeah.
Right? Your moms play matchmaking.
No, it really did feel like not like a forced play date, but like a forced, like, oh, hang out with this person. And so I reached out to him and organized like an unofficial official interview. Like it wasn't clear that it was an interview or anything. So I was like, all right, okay, I'll dress nice just to in case it's an interview and I
That
come
totally takes
in.
the pressure off. Why don't we do that? Why isn't that like a thing?
I don't know. Everything's so corporate now. So,
I'm telling you.
and when you meet Jesse, you know he's anything but
The best.
corporate.
Yeah, he's so easy to talk to.
He is. He's really is.
So you walk in this scenario.
So I walk in and greets me. So I couldn't find the place at first just because the GPS. And that's the thing. Like the GPS takes you to the complex, but you got to do a little bit of drive because it is a business complex. So you got to kind of drive through a little bit. But once you're like in there, like you can find it pretty easily. But after like maybe like a phone call, I was like, oh, okay, I see you. I found you. And so I went over there and met everybody. He's like introducing me, showing me around. And immediately I'm thinking, whoa, this is nothing that I'm used to. Where I was at, it was like a shotgun studio. What you saw was everything, like other than the tiny little like Harry Potter broom closet we had for a break room.
Sure.
And I was like, this is a wonderland. Like,
yeah.
And we're talking and like just telling me about himself and I'm telling him about myself and getting to know each other. And then 30 minutes in, he's like, so what are you looking for? Is this an interview? I was like, I think so. Like, I'd love a job. And yeah, just snowballed from there. And lo and behold, next thing you know, I'm working there. And I remember like a second, definitely more unofficial, official, not really an interview, but more like, okay, he's showing his interest. I'm showing my interest. Kind of talking more formalities, like what would it look like? What would I like to do if there's anything that isn't in my scope of practice at that moment? If I'd like to add something to that, which is I thought was awesome. Knowing who I was working with before, that wasn't an option. Where Jesse's like, do you want to get certified in anything or do anything that we're currently not doing? You want to introduce? Like, I'm all ears. I'm all everything.
Highly mentoring and encouraging for your own personal development.
100%.
And what's on the table next? I mean, in terms of professional development.
So
where do you see yourself going with that?
Interestingly enough, and we joke about it at the studio because we don't know when it's going to happen, but there's talks about it happening.
Spill the tea.
They're going to make it to where you can add dry needling as part of your scope of practice under LMT, so licensed massage therapist.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what, and William and I were joking, like, we should do that.
Well, because a lot of back to school, go back and get
it would just be a matter of training. We wouldn't have to specifically go to school. Now, if I wanted to do it now, I would definitely have to go back to school.
Right.
But if they do pass I don't know if it's like a legislature bill or I don't know nothing of that. But like, they got to write it into some sort of official government, like stamp it that all you need is a LMT, and you can. Like kind of like a continued education, kind of like how NASM has their, like you get your main NASM certification course, and then of course you have like your little side stuff. Mm-hmm. It'd kind of be like that. So it's like you have to get your CEs done, right. And but yeah, it would just be a matter of I don't know how costly it would be. It'd probably be a little bit on the pricey side, but I think that'd be worth it because all the time, let's say Ryan's not there or Dr. Tower has left for the day or he's sick. And there was one instance where a client of mine was like, oh, my son really needs some dry needling done. And I was like, oh, no one's here today to do it. I was like, I can do the soft tissue work, but I can't do the needling. And I was like, how nice would that have been if I were to say, like, I could?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if there's anything that's next, it's definitely that.
Okay. I like that.
So I can't put a date on it, but be on the lookout. Be on the far lookout.
Sounds good.
Oh,
Sounds good. So I'm curious to know, speaking of the team, how's the team handling the new nickname?
The Buttermaker?
The Buttermaker.
Oh, Jesse, it's a love-hate relationship for him. So Jesse used to have him, and he still does. It's just maybe he doesn't hear it as much anymore. Because he did a lot of the build out for our non-invasive room.
Yeah, so your renovations were almost solely done by him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen such amazing flooring by someone who doesn't know how to do floors and has never done floors. So he would be, he definitely shifted gears of, he'd work on some people and then do the owner stuff, like the more back end, non-fun stuff of owning a business.
Right.
Which of course is expected as a business owner.
Well, it's fun in its own regard.
But yeah, rewarding. It's fun in a rewarding sense, I guess. But he shifted gears to like, okay, I'm waiting till the last client, and then I'm working on that room until the sunrise, and then I'm gonna go home and sleep. And then there's no more clients. I'm gonna go back and do it again. So he's now shifting back into working on people again and doing more of the back-ended things to kind of help. Also, because Heather, our studio manager, she was taking a lot of the brunt of that
Responsibility.
a lot of that responsibility, which she handled very amazingly.
Yes, she does.
She handles everything there. Amazing. Honestly, she keeps the reins in that
Sure.
in that place. To
I'm
be
sure
honest,
things get a little wild in there.
it can. It can. She definitely keeps us in check. So now that he's shifting back, he's like, no one calls me Magic Hands anymore. He even has a pair of custom sneakers that say it. And so with the new nickname, he's like, no one gives me nicknames anymore. And he had kind of heard the end of it a little bit for a while. And then the recent event that we did with you at the township CrossFit Center.
At CrossFit Town Center.
I always mix the beginning and the end of that name together, but yeah. So the event we did there, that one guy, I forget his name, but I did a demo on him, and he heard about the nickname. He's like, you know what? I'm just gonna call you Butter because you're on a roll. And he about lost it. He about lost his mind.
It's catchy. I'm coming out with a shirt. That's it. I've decided I'm making a shirt. I'm bringing it out. I mean, all jokes aside,
I'll wear it every day.
You need this. But I'm sure you get a lot of shade thrown at you when you're in the studio.
Like friendly shade. Yeah, it is mostly from Jesse.
It's all love.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. At the end, like he's very happy that people give me nicknames because they like the service so much. But at the end of the day, he's like, oh, I want a nickname again.
We'll have to come up with something.
We will.
I mean, it's in due time.
It is. It is. It is.
Well, I mean, so tell everybody where they can find you. I know we've talked a lot about you're at Trigger Point, but tell us all about if they want to reach out, how do they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So my Instagram handle is JW from Trigger Point. Our studio's Instagram handle is Trigger Point Studios with 2 S's. Someone stole the 1 S. And then that's pretty much the only social media I have. We have our link in the bio so you can book directly through there. We also have our app link now. We have our own branded app. Very simple to use. You can book your appointment there, see our availability live, get updates on our availability. You can always call us. I wish I knew the number offhand.
Well, I think it has a lot of cool features. You can have the app, so you can book with any of the practitioners,
right?
All of your service. You can see all of your availability, and I think you can message each other through there.
You can't. I haven't played around with that aspect too much, but also our landline number that people call, you can text that number. We have a program where we could receive that and respond back to you via text. Or for us, it's through the app, but for you, it'd be via text.
Very nice.
So yeah, you could text, call. You could even walk in. You could walk in.
So walk in, slide in your DMs.
100%. Yeah.
Hit up the studio. Come 100%. Have lunch.
Come have lunch.
Hang out.
Get some Normatech in.
Watch some TV.
Yes, we have every streaming service that you could think of.
There's even snacks now.
Yes, we have as much goldfish as the heart desires, popcorn, trail mix. That's my personal favorite. I love the trail mix.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise and your knowledge, and definitely the importance of prioritizing recovery for performance, but also just for healthy lifestyles.
Just day-to-day living.
Day-to-day living.
100%.
All right. Well, thank you, Jamil.
Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. All right. That's a wrap.